Commander Velthar Quinn adjusted his observation equipment one last time before settling into his monitoring station. The massive viewing chamber aboard the Galactic Observation Council's research vessel gave him a perfect view of Calris Prime below. The planet spun slowly beneath him, its industrial complexes and mining facilities scattered across 3 continents, like metal scars on brown Earth. Velthar had been doing this job for over 200 years. He had watched civilizations rise and fall, documented the military tactics of dozens of species, and recorded the final moments of empires that thought they were unbeatable. Today would be no different. The humans would fight, they would lose, and he would file his report. Simple and clean. The Crithian horde had arrived 3 days ago. Their bioships hung in space like massive insects, each one pulsing with organic light. Velthar counted 50,000 bio-enhanced warriors ready to drop to the planet's surface. These were not ordinary soldiers. The Crithians had spent centuries perfecting their warrior beasts, creatures that were part soldier, part weapon, and part nightmare. They had conquered 17 star systems in just 3 months. No force in the galaxy had been able to stop them. Below on Calris Prime, the humans waited. Velthar pulled up his files on the Human Federation. The data was thin, almost pathetic. These humans had appeared in the galaxy only 6 months ago, claiming 3 small worlds on the outer rim. Intelligence reports suggested they were primitives who had somehow stumbled onto faster-than-light travel. Their technology was basic, their numbers small, their experience in galactic warfare non-existent. The math was simple: 50,000 Crithian warriors against 8,000 human soldiers. Velthar estimated the battle would last perhaps 4 hours, 6 at most. He opened a communication channel to the human command center. Standard procedure required him to announce his presence as a neutral observer. A young human face appeared on his screen, wearing what looked like a primitive uniform. "This is Commander Velthar Quinn of the Galactic Observation Council," he said in the common galactic tongue. "I am here to document this engagement. Do you acknowledge?" The human nodded. "Acknowledged, Commander. I'm Colonel Park Jinho, Federation Tactical Command. We're aware of your mission." Velthar studied the human's face. Park Jinho looked calm, almost relaxed. This was not how a military commander should look when facing impossible odds. Where was the fear? The desperate planning? The panic? "Colonel Park," Velthar said carefully, "you understand the nature of the force arrayed against you?" Park Jinho smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Oh yes, Commander. We understand perfectly." The communication ended. Velthar stared at the blank screen for a moment. In 2 centuries of observation, he had never seen a commander smile when discussing his own army's destruction. He switched his monitors to the Crithian fleet. Their bioships were magnificent in their horror. Each vessel was a living thing, grown rather than built, capable of healing damage and adapting to threats. The largest ship was over 3 kilometers long, its surface covered in weapon ports that looked like giant eyes. From these ships would come the warrior beasts that had destroyed so many civilizations. Velthar had seen Crithian warriors in action before. They stood 3 meters tall, their bodies enhanced with biomechanical implants that made them faster, stronger, and nearly invulnerable. Their weapons were grown from their own bodies, acid spitters and bone blades that could cut through most armor. They felt no pain, knew no fear, and followed orders with perfect precision. The humans had nothing like this. Velthar accessed the human equipment files. Their soldiers carried simple kinetic weapons, projectile throwers that seemed almost primitive compared to galactic standards. Their armor was basic metal and ceramic. Their vehicles were crude boxes on wheels or tracks. Everything about human military technology suggested a species that was centuries behind galactic norms. Yet something bothered him about the intelligence reports. The humans had taken 3 worlds in 6 months. That was not the action of a primitive species. Those worlds had been defended, though not heavily. Still, for complete newcomers to galactic warfare to achieve any victories at all was unusual. He decided to monitor human communications to get a better sense of their tactical planning. What he heard confused him more. "Bravo team, this is Captain Lee Minho. Remember what we practiced. Hit fast, hit hard, and keep moving. These things might be tough, but they've never fought us before." "Roger that, Captain." Sergeant Choi Hana. "Here. My squad is ready. We've got some surprises prepared for our visitors. All units, this is Colonel Park. The enemy thinks they know how this ends. Let's show them they're wrong." The tone was all wrong. These humans sounded confident, almost eager. They spoke as if they expected to win. Velthar had monitored the communications of dozens of doomed armies, and they all sounded the same. Desperate, afraid, grim. These humans sounded like they were looking forward to the fight. Perhaps they simply did not understand their situation. Primitive species often had unrealistic assessments of their own capabilities. The Crethians would cure them of such delusions quickly enough. The first bioships began their descent toward Kelris Prime. Velthar watched as massive organic transports carried their living cargo toward the planet's surface. The Crethian strategy was always the same. Overwhelming force applied at multiple points simultaneously. Shock and terror to break enemy morale, followed by systematic extermination. On the planet below, human forces took their positions. Velthar counted their deployments with growing disbelief. The humans were not concentrating their forces. Instead, they were spreading out across multiple defensive points, dividing their already small army into even smaller units. This was exactly the wrong response to a Crethian assault. "Commander Kim Yuna to all ground units," came a voice over the human communication channels. "Fleet deployment is complete. We'll provide orbital support as long as possible, but expect to be on your own once the real fighting starts." Velthar quickly shifted his sensors to scan for human orbital assets. He found them, and immediately understood why Commander Kim Yuna sounded pessimistic. The human fleet consisted of 12 ships, none larger than a standard cruiser. Their weapons appeared to be simple energy projectors and kinetic launchers. Against the Crethian biofleet, they would last perhaps an hour. Yet even Commander Kim Yuna sounded more determined than afraid. What was wrong with these humans? Did they not understand basic military mathematics? The first Crethian transports touched down on Kelris Prime's surface. Velthar watched as the biomechanical doors split open like giant mouths, disgorging wave after wave of warrior beasts. They moved with liquid grace, their enhanced muscles carrying them across the terrain at incredible speed. Each warrior was a perfect killing machine, designed for exactly this kind of assault. The humans opened fire. Velthar expected the usual pattern. A brief futile resistance followed by rapid collapse as the defenders realized the hopelessness of their situation. Instead, something very different happened. The human weapons were more effective than they should have been. The primitive kinetic projectiles punched through Crethian bioarmor with surprising efficiency. More importantly, the humans seemed to know exactly where to aim. They targeted joints, sensory organs, and other vulnerable points with precision. That suggested extensive knowledge of Crethian anatomy. How was this possible? The humans had never fought Crethians before. "Lieutenant Kang Seojin here," came a voice over the human channels. "Enemy biosignatures match the projections. Targeting protocols are effective. Switching to pattern 7. Projections? Targeting? Protocols? These humans had prepared for this specific enemy. But how? The Crethian assault on Kelris Prime had been decided only days ago. Human intelligence networks could not possibly have learned of Crethian tactical doctrine in such a short time, unless they had encountered Crethians before. Velthar quickly accessed the Galactic military database, searching for any record of human Crethian contact. He found nothing. According to all official records, this was the first time the two species had met in battle, yet the evidence of his sensors told a different story. The humans were fighting as if they knew exactly what they were facing. On the planet below, the battle was developing in ways that defied Velthar's expectations. The Crethian warriors advanced in their standard formation, expecting to overrun defensive positions through sheer numbers and superior individual capability. Instead, They found themselves channeled into carefully prepared killing zones, where human weapons could target them most effectively. Corporal Han Jiwoo to Bravo Team, came another voice. Enemy moving into Sector 7 as predicted, initiating surprise package in 3, 2, 1. A section of industrial complex simply vanished in a massive explosion. Velthar's sensors showed nearly 200 Krithian warriors caught in the blast. The explosion had been perfectly timed and positioned to achieve maximum enemy casualties, while avoiding human forces. This was not the desperate last stand of a primitive species. This was sophisticated military planning. As the first hour of battle passed, Velthar found himself revising his estimates. The humans were not only holding their positions, they were inflicting significant casualties on the Krithian force. His instruments showed Krithian losses. The third hour of battle brought changes that challenged everything Velthar thought he knew about warfare. The Krithian horde, faced with unexpected resistance, began deploying their secondary assault waves. These were not ordinary warrior beasts. These were the specialized bioforms that the Krithians used to break through hardened defenses. Velthar watched as massive siege beasts emerged from the biotransports. Each creature stood 6 meters tall and was equipped with natural weapons that could tear through reinforced bunkers. Their hide was thick enough to stop most conventional weapons, and their regenerative capabilities meant that even serious wounds would heal within minutes. Behind the siege beasts came the hunter-killers, smaller but deadlier creatures designed to pursue fleeing enemies. These bioforms could track their targets across continents and would not stop until their prey was dead. They moved like liquid shadow, almost impossible to see until they struck. Any normal army would have broken at the sight of these creatures. Velthar had seen entire civilizations surrender rather than face Krithian siege beasts in open combat. The humans did something different. "Engineering team to all units," came a voice over the human communication channels. "New enemy bioforms detected, switching to heavy countermeasures. All personnel, this is Engineer Lim So-young, prepare for loud noises." Loud noises? The first siege beast reached a human defensive position and began tearing through the reinforced barriers with claws that could cut through metal like paper. For a moment it seemed the human line would break. Then the entire area erupted in a series of explosions that sent the massive creature tumbling backward. Velthar quickly analyzed the attack. The humans had somehow rigged their defensive positions, with charges powerful enough to stagger a siege beast. But more importantly, they had known exactly when and where to detonate them. The timing suggested they had been tracking the creature's movement patterns and had predicted its exact approach route. "Direct hit on target Alpha," reported a human voice. "Siege beast is down but not dead. Moving to Phase 3 containment." Containment? They were trying to contain a siege beast? Velthar watched in disbelief as human soldiers deployed some kind of energy net around the fallen creature. The siege beast thrashed and roared, its biomechanical systems trying to regenerate the damage from the explosion. But the human net held, and more disturbing, it seemed to be interfering with the creature's healing process. "Major Yundeho here," came another voice. "Containment successful. Beginning biosystem analysis. These things are fascinating." Fascinating? A Krithian siege beast was trying to kill them, and the humans found it fascinating? The pattern repeated across multiple engagement zones. As each new type of Krithian bioform appeared, the humans met it with countermeasures that seemed specifically designed to neutralize that particular threat. It was as if they had encountered every variant of Krithian warrior before and had developed targeted responses to each one. But this was impossible. Velthar had checked the records multiple times. Humans and Krithians had never fought before. "Captain Lee Minho to scout teams," came a familiar voice. "Hunter-killer bioforms are moving through sectors 4 and 6. Remember, these things are fast, but they're also predictable. Stick to the plan." Velthar focused his sensors on sectors 4 and 6. The hunter-killers were indeed moving through those areas, their biosignatures barely visible even to his advanced detection equipment. These creatures were death incarnate, designed to eliminate targets with ruthless efficiency. A group of human soldiers was positioned directly in their path. Velthar expected to witness a massacre. Instead, he saw the impossible. As the first hunter-killer approached the human position, the soldiers simply vanished. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. The creature paused, its enhanced senses searching for targets that had somehow disappeared from right in front of it. "Now," whispered a voice over the human channels. The hunter-killer fell as a dozen weapons fired simultaneously from positions that had appeared empty moments before. The creature's bioarmor, designed to stop most known weapons, proved useless against coordinated fire from multiple angles. "Hunter-killer down," reported Sergeant Choi Hana. "These things really don't like crossfire." Moving to position 7. The humans were using camouflage technology that could fool Krithian biosensors. Where had they obtained such equipment? Even the most advanced galactic civilizations struggled to develop stealth systems that could deceive Krithian-enhanced senses. As the 4th hour began, Velthar realized the battle was entering a new phase. The Krithians had committed nearly their entire ground force and they were losing. Not just losing ground, but losing the battle itself. Their casualty rate had climbed to 35% while human losses remained below 8%. This was not just unprecedented. This was terrifying. The Krithian fleet commanders were clearly reaching the same conclusion. Velthar monitored their biocommunications as they discussed options that had never been necessary before. For the first time in Krithian military history, they were considering retreat, but pride or perhaps programming prevented them from withdrawing. Instead, they made a decision that chilled Velthar to his core. They activated their orbital bombardment systems. The Krithian bioships began targeting human positions from space with weapons that could level entire city blocks. This was a violation of standard warfare protocols, but the Krithians were desperate. If they could not defeat the humans in ground combat, they would simply destroy the entire battlefield. Velthar expected this to be the end. No ground force could survive sustained orbital bombardment from bioships. The humans would finally break, and the Krithians would claim a Pyrrhic victory. The human fleet responded immediately. "All ships, this is Commander Kim Yuna. They want to play orbital warfare? Let's show them how it's done." The 12 human ships rose from their defensive positions around Kelris Prime and engaged the massive Krithian biofleet. By every military calculation Velthar knew, this should have been suicide. The Krithian fleet outmassed the human fleet by a factor of 10 to 1. The first exchange of fire showed why human mathematics might be different from everyone else's mathematics. Human weapons were not just effective against Krithian bioships. They were devastatingly effective. The energy beams and kinetic projectiles struck with precision that suggested the humans knew exactly where each bioship was most vulnerable. More importantly, they seemed to know which targets to prioritize. "Target their coordination nodes first," Commander Kim Yuna ordered. "Disable their fleet communication, then work on the heavy hitters." Within 30 minutes, the massive Krithian biofleet was in disarray. Their organic communication systems had been severed by precise strikes that left their individual ships unable to coordinate with each other. The larger bioships, deprived of support from their escorts, found themselves isolated and vulnerable to concentrated human attack. "This is impossible," Velthar whispered to himself as he watched a human cruiser destroy a Krithian bioship 3 times its size through pure tactical superiority. But impossible or not, it was happening. On the planet below, the human ground, forces had used the orbital engagement as an opportunity to launch their own offensive. No longer content to simply defend, they were actively hunting down the remaining Krithian warriors with systematic efficiency. "All ground units, this is Colonel Park Jin-ho. The fleet has the orbitals handled. Time for us to finish this. Remember, we want prisoners for intelligence gathering." Prisoners? The humans wanted to take Krithian warriors prisoner? Velthar had never heard of anyone successfully capturing a Krithian warrior. The bio-enhanced creatures were programmed to fight until death, their organic systems designed to prevent capture through various means, including self-destruction. Yet, as he watched, human forces began implementing capture operations with the same precision they had shown in every other aspect of this battle. They used non-lethal weapons to incapacitate warriors, then employed some kind of biosuppression technology to prevent the creatures from activating their self-destruct sequences. "Private Song Jisoo here," came a young voice. "I've got 3. Warriors secured in Sector 12. These suppression fields really work. Who designed this stuff?" "Need to know basis, Song," replied Captain Lee Minho. "Just keep them alive. Intelligence wants to have a conversation." The battle was essentially over, though scattered fighting continued across Kelris Prime. The Crithian horde, which had conquered 17 star systems in 3 months, had been defeated by a species that supposedly had no experience in galactic warfare. But Velthar was beginning to suspect that the official records about human experience were wrong. As the 5th hour ended, he accessed the deepest levels of the galactic military database, searching for any reference to human military activity that might have been classified or overlooked. What he found made his blood run cold. There were gaps in the records. Entire star systems that had reported Crithian attacks, then gone silent, then resumed normal communication without explanation. Worlds that had been marked for Crithian invasion, but had somehow never been conquered. Military incidents involving unknown forces that had used tactics remarkably similar to what he was witnessing now. The humans had been fighting. The dawn of the 2nd day brought revelations that shattered Velthar's understanding of galactic warfare. As the sun rose over Kelris Prime, it illuminated a battlefield that told an impossible story. The scattered remains of Crithian bioships dotted the planet's surface like fallen monuments to invincibility. The mighty horde that had terrorized 17 star systems lay broken and captured. But what disturbed Velthar most was how normal the humans seemed about their impossible victory. "Morning briefing in 10 minutes, came Colonel Park Jinho's voice over the communication channels. "Coffee and tactical analysis in the command center." Coffee? They were discussing breakfast beverages after destroying the most feared military force in the galaxy? Velthar had spent the night reviewing battle recordings, trying to understand how 8,000 humans had not just defeated 50,000 Crithians, but had made it look routine. The more he studied the engagement, the more convinced he became that this had not been humanity's first encounter with the Horde. His communication system chimed with an incoming message from the Galactic Observation Council. "Commander Velthar, this is Admiral Thexanar. We've been monitoring the energy signatures from your location. Our sensors indicate significant military activity. What is the status of the human defensive effort?" Velthar hesitated. How could he explain that there was no defensive effort? That the humans had gone from defense to offense to complete victory in less than 24 hours? "Admiral, the situation is complex. The human forces have successfully repelled the Crithian assault." "Repelled? You mean they're still fighting?" "No, sir. The battle is over. The Crithians have been defeated." Silence stretched across the communication link. When Admiral Thexanar spoke again, his voice carried disbelief. "Commander, please clarify. Are you saying the humans have survived?" "I'm saying they've won. Completely. The Crithian horde has been destroyed as an effective fighting force. That's impossible." "Yes, sir. It should be." Velthar ended the communication and returned to his observations. On the planet below, human forces were conducting what they called cleanup operations. This involved processing thousands of Crithian prisoners, salvaging biotechnology, and apparently conducting detailed analysis of enemy tactics and equipment. "Engineering team report," came Engineer Lim Soyoung's voice. "The bioship components are more advanced than our initial projections suggested. We're looking at technology that's centuries ahead of standard galactic norms. How did they develop regenerative hull systems like this?" "Unknown," replied another voice. "But we'll figure it out." "Always do." "Always do? How many advanced technologies?" Had these humans reverse engineered? Velthar accessed his database of human settlements and made a disturbing discovery. Each of the 3 worlds claimed by the Human Federation had been targets of various hostile forces before human arrival. The Zephyrian Empire had attempted to conquer one world and had mysteriously withdrawn after suffering unexpected casualties. The Nexus Collective had tried to strip mine another planet and had abandoned the operation after their mining fleets disappeared. The official records attributed these failures to local complications and unfavorable conditions. But now Velthar suspected a different explanation. The humans had been quietly fighting and winning battles across the Outer Rim for months, possibly years, and they had somehow convinced everyone else to classify these encounters as minor incidents, rather than major defeats. "Lieutenant Kang Seojin to command," came a voice that snapped Velthar back to the present. "We've got movement in the outer system. 3 more Krithian bioships approaching. Looks like reinforcements." Reinforcements? Velthar quickly scanned the system with his sensors and confirmed the report. 3 massive Krithian vessels were approaching Kael'ris Prime, apparently unaware that their entire assault force had been destroyed. This was the moment when the humans would face their real test. They had surprised 1 Krithian force, but now they would face fresh enemies who knew what to expect. "All units, this is Colonel Park," came the calm voice of the human commander. "We have incoming visitors. Standard reception protocol. Let's give them a proper welcome." Standard reception protocol? The humans had a standard procedure for this? Velthar watched as the human fleet, which should have been exhausted and damaged from the previous day's fighting, moved into position, with fluid precision. The 12 ships that had defeated a force 10 times their size were ready to do it again. "Commander Kim Yuna to all ships," came the fleet commander's voice. "New contacts are using older bioship designs. Switching to engagement pattern Delta. Remember, we want at least 1 ship intact for analysis. Analysis. Always analysis." The humans fought each battle as if it were a learning experience rather than a struggle for survival. The 3 Krithian reinforcement ships entered the system with typical Horde arrogance. They had come expecting to support a victorious assault, not to find their comrades defeated and captured. Their biocommunications, which Velthar could monitor, showed confusion and rage as they discovered the situation. The first Krithian ship launched a full spread of biomissiles at the human fleet. These were living weapons that could adapt to defensive countermeasures and pursue targets with intelligence that rivaled organic beings. The human response was immediate and devastating. "Countermeasures deployed," reported Commander Kim Yuna. "Engaging biomissiles with Pattern 7 defensive systems. The biomissiles, designed to overcome any known defensive technology, simply stopped functioning. They didn't explode or crash. They stopped, as if their organic systems had been switched off. Direct hit on Target 1, came another voice. Biomissile. Neural network successfully disrupted. Weapons are now inert." The humans had found a way to neutralize Krithian bioweapons by attacking their nervous systems. This was technology that should not have existed. Bioweapon neural disruption required intimate knowledge of Krithian organic engineering, knowledge that took other species centuries to develop. The 3 Krithian ships, faced with the sudden failure of their primary weapons, tried to retreat. They found that the humans had already moved to surround them. "This is Captain Lee Minho," came a familiar voice. "Boarding teams are ready. Shall we go introduce ourselves?" Boarding teams? The humans were planning to board Krithian bioships. Velthar had never heard of anyone successfully boarding a Krithian vessel. The bioships were designed to resist intrusion through various means, including toxic atmosphere, defensive organisms, and self-destruct systems that would kill boarders along with the ship. Yet as he watched, human assault shuttles approached, the Krithian vessels with confidence that suggested they had done this before, many times before. "Corporal Han Jiwoo here," came a young voice. "Approaching target Alpha. Bioship defensive systems are active, but we've got countermeasures ready. Beginning hull breach in 3, 2, 1. The human shuttle somehow passed through the Krithian bioship's defensive field, without triggering any of the usual protective responses. The hull breach was accomplished with tools that seemed specifically designed for cutting through organic ship hulls. "We're inside," reported Corporal Han Jiwoo. "Atmosphere is breathable with filters. Defensive organisms are present but contained." Moving toward the command center. "Contained? How did you contain a bioship's defensive organisms?" Within an hour, all 3 Krithian reinforcement ships had been captured intact. Their crews were prisoners, their technology was being analyzed, and their biosystems were being studied by human scientists who seemed to know exactly what they were looking for. "Major Yoon Dae-ho to command," came a report. "Initial analysis of the reinforcement ships confirms our projections. These are third-generation Crithian biovessels. Technology base is approximately 40 years behind their current standard. Updating our database accordingly. Database? The humans had a database of Crithian technology that was apparently more complete than the official galactic military records? Velthar began accessing deeper levels of the galactic communication networks, searching for any trace of human military activity that might have been overlooked or classified. What he found made him question everything he thought he knew about the current state of galactic affairs. There were reports, buried in obscure databases and filed under various classifications, of military engagements across dozens of star systems. Mysterious defeats of supposedly superior forces. Unexplained tactical innovations that had appeared in various conflicts. Advanced technologies that had somehow emerged from unknown sources. The pattern was clear once he knew what to look for. The humans had been active in the galaxy for much longer than 6 months. They had been fighting, learning and winning battles while somehow maintaining the fiction that they were newcomers to galactic affairs. But why the secrecy? What advantage did they gain by pretending to be primitive? Commander Velthar came, Colonel Park Jinho's voice over his communication system. I was wondering if you might be interested in a more detailed briefing on our operational methods. As a neutral observer, you might find our approach educational. There was something in the colonel's tone that suggested this was not really a request. I would be honored, Colonel. Excellent. Please prepare for transport to our command center. And Commander, bring your observation. The revelation that humans had been secretly defeating major galactic powers for years should have been the end of Velthar's education in human warfare. Instead, it proved to be only the beginning. As he studied the tactical displays in the human command center, Velthar began to understand the true scope of what he was witnessing. The battle for Kelris Prime had not been an isolated engagement. It was part of a systematic campaign that had been reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy while everyone else remained unaware. Colonel Park, Velthar said carefully, how many other species have you encountered and evaluated? Park's smile was not reassuring. 47 distinct military organizations across 31 star systems. We've engaged with everyone, from the Zephyrian Empire to the Nexus Collective to the Crithian Horde. Each engagement taught us something new about galactic military doctrine. And your conclusions? Disappointing. Most galactic species rely on technological superiority and numerical advantage. Very few demonstrate tactical flexibility or strategic innovation. None of them show any real understanding of combined arms, doctrine, or adaptive warfare. Velthar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. You're describing the entire galactic community as if we're all primitives. From a military perspective, you are. Before Velthar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The tactical displays immediately shifted to show new contacts entering the Kelris Prime system. Contact report, came Commander Kim Yuna's voice over the communication system. Multiple biosignatures dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration matches Crithian Horde command elements. Park moved to the central display and studied the incoming contacts. Velthar counted 12 massive bioships, each one larger than anything he had seen before. These were not ordinary Crithian vessels. These were the command ships that coordinated entire Horde fleets. Analysis complete, reported Engineer Lim Soyoung. Lead vessel matches the biosignature of a Crithian Prime-class command ship. These are the big ones, Colonel. Crew complement of approximately 10,000 warrior beasts each. 10,000 warriors per ship. 12 ships. The humans were facing 120,000 Crithian warriors, supported by command-level biotechnology that was centuries in advance of anything the Horde had deployed previously. Sir, came Lieutenant Kang Seojun's voice. The lead ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding the surrender of whoever destroyed their advance force. Park studied the tactical display with the same calm expression he had shown throughout their conversation. Standard Crithian arrogance, they still don't understand what they're dealing with. Commander Kim, please respond to their transmission. What should I tell them, sir? Tell them we accept their surrender. The communication center fell silent. Velthar stared at Park in disbelief. Colonel, you cannot be serious. That fleet represents the core command structure of the Crithian Horde. They have enough firepower to level entire planets. Yes, Park agreed. They do. The question is whether they'll get the chance to use it. The human fleet moved into formation with mechanical precision. 12 ships against 12 ships, but the size differential was staggering. The smallest Crithian command vessel was 5 times larger than the largest human ship. All ships, this is Commander Kim Yuna, came the fleet commander's voice. New contacts are prime-class bioships. Switching to engagement pattern Omega. All weapons free. Let's show them why size doesn't matter. Engagement pattern Omega? Velthar had heard the humans reference multiple engagement patterns throughout the battle, but this was the first time the designation had sounded ominous. The Crithian response was immediate and overwhelming. The 12 command ships opened fire simultaneously with weapons that could shatter moons. Bioplasma cannons, organic missile swarms, and living energy beams converged on the human fleet, with enough destructive force to annihilate a small moon. The human ships vanished. For a moment, Velthar thought they had been completely destroyed. Then his sensors detected them, scattered across the system in positions that should have been impossible to reach in such a short time. Tactical displacement successful, reported Major Yoon Daeho. All ships in position, initiating attack pattern Omega-7. The humans had teleported, not jumped through hyperspace, but instantaneously relocated across millions of kilometers of space. This was technology that existed only in theoretical physics textbooks. The counterattack came from angles that the Crithian bioships could not have anticipated. Human weapons struck with surgical precision at points on the massive vessels that seemed randomly chosen, until Velthar realized the pattern. They were targeting the bioships' nervous systems. Neural network disruption successful on targets 1 through 4, came a report. Command bioships are experiencing central nervous system failure. The massive Crithian vessels began to drift as their organic control systems failed. These were not simple mechanical failures. The humans were somehow attacking the biological components that allowed the bioships to function as living entities. How is this possible? Velthar whispered. We've been studying Crithian biotechnology for 3 years, Park replied. Every ship we captured, every warrior we interrogated, every piece of equipment we analyzed, we know their systems better than they do. The battle continued with a systematic precision that was terrifying to witness. Each Crithian command ship was neutralized not through brute force, but through targeted attacks on specific biological vulnerabilities that the humans had apparently cataloged and mapped over years of secret research. Captain Lee Minho here, came a familiar voice. Boarding operations commencing on targets 7 through 12. Looks like the prime-class ships have some interesting new defensive organisms. Should be fun to test our countermeasures. Fun. Captain Lee thought boarding ships full of enhanced warrior beasts would be fun. Within 2 hours, the entire Crithian command fleet was disabled and under human control. Not destroyed, captured. The core leadership of the most feared military force in the galaxy had been taken prisoner by a species that officially had no experience in galactic warfare. Excellent work, everyone, came Colonel Park's voice over the communication system. Intelligence teams, begin analysis of the command bioships. I want a complete breakdown of their organizational structure, strategic planning systems, and communication networks. Science teams, priority analysis on their bioenhancement technologies. Engineering teams, focus on their hyperspace navigation systems. The humans were not just defeating their enemies, they were dissecting them, learning everything there was to know about their capabilities, and presumably adding that knowledge to their ever-growing database of galactic military intelligence. Colonel, Velthar said slowly, what exactly are you planning to do with all this knowledge? Park turned from the tactical display to face him directly. That depends, Commander, on how reasonable the galactic community proves to be. Reasonable? About what? About accepting some necessary changes to how things are done. Before Velthar could ask what changes Park had in mind, another set of alarms began sounding. This time, the tactical display showed contacts that made Velthar's blood run cold. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected, reported Commander Kim Yuna. Configuration analysis indicates this can't be right. What is it, Commander? Park asked. Sir, we're detecting the approach of a Devourer-class bio-titan. That's impossible. The Krithians only deploy those things against entire civilizations. They wouldn't waste a Devourer on a single planet. Velthar felt his world tilt. A Devourer-class bio-titan was not a ship. It was a living weapon the size of a small moon, designed to consume entire worlds. These creatures had devoured the populations of dozens of planets, growing larger and more powerful with each victory. No military force in galactic history had ever successfully engaged a devourer and survived. The massive biosignature dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, and Velthar's sensors confirmed his worst fears. The creature was over 200 kilometers in diameter, its surface covered with organic weapons that could level continents. Its biomass was so dense that it generated its own gravitational field. Well, said Colonel Park with disturbing calm, that's new. Colonel, Velthar said urgently, you must evacuate immediately. No one fights a devourer. They consume everything in their path. Your only option is retreat. Retreat? Park looked genuinely puzzled by the concept. Commander, I don't think you understand. This is exactly the kind of opportunity we've been waiting for. Opportunity? To test our theories about large-scale bioorganism vulnerabilities. We've run simulations, but this will be our first chance to gather real data. Velthar stared at him in horror. You want to experiment on a creature that has devoured entire civilizations? Of course. How else would we learn how to kill one? The devourer began moving toward Kael'ris Prime with inexorable purpose. Its approach sent waves of terror through every living thing on the planet as some primal instinct recognized the presence of ultimate predator. All ships, this is Commander Kim Yuna, came the fleet commander's voice. We are engaging a Devourer-class bio-titan. All personnel, this is not a drill. We are actually going to try to kill something the size of a moon. Engineering. The engagement with the Devourer-class bio-titan changed everything. Velthar thought he knew about the possible and impossible. As he watched from the human command center, 12 ships approached a creature that dwarfed mountains and had consumed the populations of entire worlds. The bio-titan's response was immediate and overwhelming. Organic weapons the size of skyscrapers emerged from its surface, firing bursts of bioplasma that could have melted cities. The creature's very presence warped space around it, creating gravitational distortions that should have torn the approaching human ships apart. First contact with target, reported Commander Kim Yuna. Bio-Titan is deploying standard defensive organisms. Switching to penetration pattern Alpha. All ships remember the briefings. We only get one chance at this. Briefings? The humans had briefings on how to fight planet-sized creatures? Engineering teams, this is Engineer Lim So-Young, came a voice over the communication system. Deploying experimental biodisruptor weapons. If our calculations are correct, this should be interesting. If we're wrong, this will be very brief. The human ships began firing weapons that Velthar had never seen before. Instead of conventional energy beams or kinetic projectiles, they launched what appeared to be clouds of microscopic particles. These particles spread across the bio-titans, surface like an infection, and wherever they touched, the creature's organic armor began to break down. Direct hit with Biodisruptor Package 1, reported Major Yoon Daeho. Target is showing cellular breakdown across a 12-kilometer area. The virus is working. Virus? The humans had developed a weapon that could infect a planet-sized organism? Confirmed? Came another voice. Bio-Titan's defensive systems are trying to adapt, but the virus is mutating faster than they can respond. Cellular breakdown is accelerating. Velthar watched in fascination and horror as the massive creature began to change. The infected areas of its surface were literally dissolving, revealing the complex internal structure that allowed something so large to function as a living entity. But more disturbing was the speed at which the infection was spreading. This is impossible, Velthar said to Colonel Park. No weapon can affect something that large so quickly. It can if you understand the biology, Park replied. A creature that size requires incredibly complex internal systems to maintain itself. Disrupt those systems at the cellular level, and the entire organism becomes vulnerable. But how could you possibly understand the biology of something that has never been studied? Who says it's never been studied? The Devourer-class Bio-Titans are Crithian creations, Commander. Highly advanced versions of their standard biotechnology. We've been analyzing Crithian biosystems for 3 years. This is just scaling up. The Bio-Titan was clearly in distress. Its movements became erratic as critical systems failed throughout its massive body. The organic weapon stopped firing as the creature's attention turned to fighting the infection, spreading through its tissues. Secondary attack phase, ordered Commander Kim Yuna. Target the primary neural clusters. Let's finish this. The human ships moved closer to the dying Titan, their weapons now targeting specific areas that seemed to cause maximum disruption to the creature's nervous system. Each hit caused visible spasms across sections of the Titan's body. Captain Lee Minho here, came a familiar voice. Boarding teams are ready for internal reconnaissance. We want tissue samples from the core biosystems before this thing dies. Completely. Boarding teams? They wanted to board a dying planet killer? Are you insane? Velthar asked. Probably, Colonel Park admitted. But we need to understand how these things work. This might be our only chance to study a devourer from the inside. Within an hour, the Bio-Titan was dead. A creature that had consumed civilizations, that had been considered a force of nature rather than a military asset, had been killed by 12 human ships using weapons based on 3 years of biological research. Excellent work, everyone, came Colonel Park's voice over the communication system. Recovery teams, begin salvage operations on the Bio-Titan. Science teams, priority analysis on the core biosystems. Engineering teams, see what technologies we can adapt for our own use. As the humans began the systematic analysis of their impossible victory, Velthar realized that his mission as a neutral observer had fundamentally changed. He was no longer documenting a single battle. He was witnessing the emergence of a species that could reshape the galactic balance of power. Colonel Park, he said carefully, I need to file my report with the Galactic Observation Council. What should I tell them? The truth, Commander. Tell them exactly what you've witnessed. And what truth is that? Park's expression became serious. Tell them that the Human Federation is no longer content to remain hidden on the outer rim. Tell them that we've completed our assessment of galactic military capabilities. And tell them that we found those capabilities inadequate for maintaining galactic security. Inadequate? The Crithian horde conquered 17 star systems in 3 months, Commander. Before we stopped them, they were on track to consume half the galaxy. Within a decade. The Zephyrian Empire practices systematic slavery. The Nexus Collective strip mines inhabited worlds. The Drakmori hegemony experiments on sentient species. Park gestured to the tactical displays showing the wreckage of the Crithian fleet and the dead Bio-Titan. The current galactic order is a failure, Commander. It protects the strong and abandons the weak. It allows atrocities to continue because confronting them would be inconvenient. It treats warfare as politics by other means instead of understanding that some threats require permanent solutions. And you believe humans can do better? We know we can. We've been doing better for 3 years. Velthar spent the next several hours reviewing all the data he had gathered, trying to construct a report that would convey the magnitude of what he had witnessed. How could he explain that a species officially considered primitive had secretly defeated every major military threat in the galaxy? How could he describe weapons that could kill planet-sized creatures, or tactical systems that made impossible victories seem routine? More importantly, how could he convey the deeper implications of what the humans had revealed? Commander Velthar, came a voice over his communication system. It was Admiral Thexanar from the Galactic Observation Council. We need an immediate status report. Our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from your location. Admiral, I'm preparing a comprehensive report. The situation here is complex. Complex? Commander, we're reading the destruction of multiple capital-class vessels and something that our sensors can't even classify. What happened to the Crithian assault force? They were defeated, sir. Completely. Defeated by whom? We thought the humans were primitive. That assessment was incorrect, Admiral. Drastically incorrect. Explain. Velthar took a deep breath. Admiral, the Human Federation has been conducting covert military operations throughout the galaxy for approximately 3 years. They have engaged and defeated 47 different military organizations across 31 star systems. Their technological capabilities are centuries in advance of our estimates. Their tactical doctrine is unlike anything in our military databases. And as of today, they have demonstrated the ability to destroy Devourer-class bio-titans. Silence stretched across the communication link. Commander, Admiral Thexanar said slowly, are you saying that humans represent a threat to galactic security? No, sir. I'm saying they represent the solution to galactic security. Whether the rest of the galaxy recognizes that fact will determine whether that solution is implemented peacefully or by force. Velthar ended the communication and began composing his final report. As he wrote, he reflected on everything he had witnessed over the past few days. The systematic destruction of supposedly unbeatable enemies, the casual confidence with which humans approached impossible challenges, the underlying assumption that any problem could be solved with sufficient intelligence, determination, and willingness to adapt. Commander, came Colonel Park's voice behind him. How's the report coming? It's difficult to know where to begin, Colonel. I've witnessed things that challenge fundamental assumptions about warfare, technology, and what's possible. That's exactly what we were hoping for. May I ask what you expect to happen when this report reaches the Galactic Council? Park considered the question. Several possibilities. They might recognize that the current galactic order has failed and work with us to establish something better. They might try to form an alliance against us, in which case they'll discover that their combined military forces are inadequate to the task. Or they might try to negotiate, which could lead to a peaceful transition to more effective governance. And if they reject all those options, then we'll demonstrate that human patience, while considerable, is not infinite. We've spent 3 years learning about our neighbors, Commander. If they prove unwilling to accept necessary changes, we'll implement those changes ourselves. You're talking about conquest. We're talking about responsible management. The galaxy has proven incapable of managing itself effectively. Wars of conquest, systematic oppression, the casual acceptance of atrocities. These are symptoms of failed leadership. Velthar finished his report and prepared to transmit it to the Galactic Observation Council.